A warm welcome to this TechEd session, Extensibility for SAP S/4HANA, the big picture. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Georg Wilhelm within SAP's technology development area, and there within the ABAP platform, I'm one of the team leads of the teams who actually develop in-app extensibility technology. Some bookkeeping notes. This is a recorded session. Nevertheless, you can ask questions through the chat and I will answer them live. I would like to start with a story that happened to me a couple of weeks ago with a customer, a big customer, you all know, in Sweden. And during an extensibility session I gave there, this customer asked me the question, how many of the other S/4HANA public cloud customers, how many of them utilize custom fields? Because he wondered whether he's rather the rule or rather the exception. And I told him, well, it's more than 80% of the customers create their own custom fields. So he knew that he's not at all the exception. And it's also the message right here. It's rather the rule that customers adapt the standard a bit according to their needs to fit exactly their processes. Now let's go to the goals let's have a look at the goals of this session. There are two of them, two goals. Goal number one is how does S/4HANA extensibility look like? The two flavors, in-app and side-by-side extensibility, and how they work together and when to use what. And the second goal is we will have a look into the details of in-app extensibility, and at the end of the session, you know how it feels to do in-app extensibility and what you can do with in-app extensibility. Regarding the agenda, you see right here, we start with the business drivers. After having a look at the business drivers, we will have a look at the extensibility big picture. After the big picture, we will dive into the key architectural principles of S/4HANA extensibility. Then as a fourth point, we will do a deep dive into in-app extensibility and especially into key user in-app extensibility. And show how the in-app extensibility features fit together with side-by-side extensibility. And then we have a demo slot where I will show in-app extensibility, key user in-app extensibility. Then we will have a look into the question when to use what, when to go for side-by-side extensibility and when to go for in-app extensibility. That is the most often raised question by customers when it comes to extensibility. And then we will conclude with the key takeaways and additional information. But let's start with the business drivers. There are basically two of them. What the customers want to do with extensibility is basically they want to adapt the standard processes according to their needs, to their specific process, to bring their innovation on the table. On the other side, they don't want to re-implement and adapt this extension over and over again with each upgrade or update. That costs or can cost a lot of money. They don't want to do that. And these are the two forces you have to consider, the business drivers you have to consider when it comes to extensibility. Now let's go ahead, looking at the big picture, the S/4HANA extensibility big picture. On the left side, you see in-app extensibility. And with in-app extensibility, whatever you do, what is tightly integrated into the S4 stack. Examples are you add an extension field, a custom field to a standard business object, or you adapt the UI a bit, the standard UI a bit according to your needs, or you adapt the standard form, you create your own form on top of it. You adapt the business logic a little bit. These are the things you do with in-app extensibility. On the other side, when it comes to side-by-side extensibility based on SAP Cloud Platform, there you do things, for example, where data does not come only from S4, but from several sources, from several systems. That is really the sweet spot for SAP Cloud Platform. Also, when you create UIs that do not really reflect the S4 standard, where you really provide your own innovation in your UI style, you can do that in SAP Cloud Platform, and a lot of other things you can do. They are listed right here. With SAP Cloud Platform, building your own application in SAP Cloud Platform. We have two flavors of the extensibility, but they smoothly interact together. The mechanisms there are basically communication via OData service. So you can call OData services from the SAP Cloud Platform in S/4HANA, the standard OData services, as well as the custom OData services, the ones you create yourself with InApp Extensibility. On the other side, you can call OData services in your custom code in SAP S/4HANA, in SAP Cloud Platform. That is also possible and quite important. On the other side, you have an eventing infrastructure you can use to raise events in S4 and to consume them in SAP Cloud Platform, also the other way around. You have data replication in place, so there's they smoothly work together in app and side by side. Let me shortly explain the gray bubble you see right here, classic extensibility. Classic extensibility is only available in on-prem. That's not true for the others. All the things I mentioned before are available in the cloud version as well as in on-prem. This is not true for classic extensibility. Classic extensibility, that is adding appends manually, adding class extensions, adding body implementation, things like that. They are available in on-prem, give you a lot of flexibility, but they are different than the others, not 100% lifecycle stable. It can happen that you have to rework this extension after an upgrade. And one thing that is not shown on this picture, but quite important, and this will be explained in a session from Boris Gebhardt. The name of the session is ABAP Strategy. And in this session, he will introduce developer extensibility, which is, frankly speaking, a game changer for in-app extensibility, because with developer extensibility, you combine both 100% lifecycle stability and also the power of a complete, powerful development environment that goes far beyond key user extensibility. So far, the big picture. Now let's have a look at the feature set, or not the feature set, but the architectural principles that both flavors follow. And the most important architectural principle is lifecycle stability. In SAP Cloud Platform, it comes more or less by nature with a side-by-side extensibility, because there you do not at all rely on the S4 stack. You are loosely coupled. You call OData services in S4 and vice versa. But upgrades do not really harm you, because the OData services are kept stable in S4 over the releases. So this is lifecycle stability in SAP Cloud Platform comes by nature. In in-app extensibility, we implemented two mechanisms to 100% assure lifecycle stability. And the mechanisms are twofold. The first is we introduce stable anchors. So whenever you extend, you do that in locations that we from SAP keep 100% stable. And then whatever you code in an extension, you can only reference released objects. And once again, we keep these objects 100% stable. That is a reason why we have 100% lifecycle stability also for in-app extensibility. And now let's go ahead with having a look at the feature set of in-app extensibility and how it fits to side-by-side extensibility. Let's first have a look at the color coding of the boxes you see right here. Blue boxes mean standard objects delivered by SAP. So here, an example of a Fiori application. You have database tables on the very bottom. You have ABAP coding and CDS views on top of this database tables. You have data services on top of this logic. Then you have the user interface, the UI consuming the data services, and then finally the launchpad where the UI becomes a tile. So that is delivered by SAP. And now we come to the green boxes. The green boxes are the boxes that show how you can extend the standard with in-app extensibility. First of all, you can adapt the UI according to your needs. You will see that in a demo. Also, you can create your own custom fields. You will also see that in a demo. What you can also do is you can create your own business logic. That means adapt the standard business logic. You can also create your own custom CDS views. On top of that, your own read data services. You can create your own print forms, your own queries, your own cube views. You can also create your own database tables, your own application logic, ABAP logic. On top of that, you can create your OData service on top of this logic. You can also create a UI on top of this OData service. You will also see that in a demo, in my demo. And now we come to the question how both interact and come together. So first of all, in SAP Cloud Platform, you can build your UI completely different from the standard UI, as innovative as one can think of, and consume the OData services from the standard and also the custom OData services. But also in this app UI, you can consume your own application you created in SAP Cloud Platform, maybe with the Cloud Application Programming Model. As runtime, you have Java, you have Node.js, you can even have ABAP. And in addition to that, you can call OData services in your SAP Cloud Platform application from S4, but also, and that's very interesting, the other way around, from your custom logic, you can call OData services in your SAP Cloud Platform. Also, I already mentioned that you have data replication in place, and you can use the event integration, also quite important. So far, the overall feature set and how side-by-side and user extensibility interact together. And now let's come to the demo.
We start this demo on this customer projects standard Fiori application. And we will have a look how one can adapt this standard UI according to his needs. First, we have to switch into the so-called adaptation mode. We do so by selecting this Adapt UI choice. And by the way, this choice is only available if your user has the respective key user authorizations. Immediately when we selected this choice, you see the UI changed. It is now in UI runtime adaptation mode. You can no longer enter data, but what you can do is you can drag and drop elements, fields. You can even drag and drop sections. You can also hide sections if you want. You can remove fields. Removing doesn't mean that you delete the fields on the backend side. You just remove it from the UI. You can also add your own sections by create group. And what you can also do, you can immediately in place change the labels of fields. And there's a lot more you can do. Please note that the changes you make right here with this runtime adaptation affect everybody in the company who uses this UI. It's not personalization. It does not only affect your user. Now we go ahead. We would like to add a field, a completely new custom field. One, let's say, a field that allows us to prioritize customer projects so that we have a way to see what's the most important one and to work first on this one. So we would like to add a field, project priority. We can do so by clicking on one of the fields or one of the containers, and you see there is a choice add field. We click on that one, and then you see we have a list. We get a list of fields. These are fields that are already available in the backend, in the data source bound against the section on which we clicked. But these are fields that are currently not displayed in this section. So what we could do, we could choose one of these fields and make it visible right here, but we don't want to do that. We would like to create our own custom field. We do so by clicking on this plus button, create custom field, and immediately the custom fields and logic app is opened with the respective context. This app knows now that it was started from the customer project's runtime adaptation mode. And so it knows that it is talking about the engagement project business context. In the system overall, we have more than 400 business contexts. And if you would have a look at all the custom fields, we have several hundreds of them in this system. But here you only see the ones in engagement project. You see the custom fields that are there. We go ahead creating a new one, our field. Once again, we press on this plus button, create. The business context is already pre-selected for us. As I said, the application knows that it is talking about engagement projects. Now we provide a label, project priority. And you immediately see that it takes this label as a proposal for the identifier, the technical name of the field, but it leaves out the blanks and special characters. And maybe some of you recognize that there is a customer namespace in front of the name, this YY1 underscore. The reason is we have to make sure that there are no name collisions with existing standard fields or upcoming standard fields, and also takes the label as a proposal for the priority. And now we have to select the field type. Let's have a short look at the field types. We have field types like amount with currency, association to business object. Interesting field type because it allows us to associate standard business objects or custom business objects. And this is helpful for the value help, but also for analytics, as you can now join these other data sources. Then we have checkbox. Code list is the one we're interested in. It allows us to provide codes with descriptions like project priority would be high, medium, low. Date, email address, number, numeric text, phone number, quantity with unit, text, time, timestamp, web address. But we pick code list. We add 3 values: high, priority medium, priority low. And we are done. And you see there was a proposal for the code values. We can change them, but we are pretty fine with them. And we provided the language dependent descriptions. You could also provide them in different languages, but we're fine with that. Now we say create and publish. And as soon as we press create and publish, the field is really generated on the back end. That means it becomes a new column in the standard table of the customer projects. It also becomes CDS extend on this respective CDS views. Also, the respective OData service is extended so that finally the field is available for the UI. Now publishing is finished. We can now go ahead making the field visible in the UI. We switch back to our standard UI. We say, or we click on one of the elements here, and immediately we get a pop-up saying us that the metadata, the OData metadata in the backend has changed. And if we want to see the changes, we have to reload the UI. We do so by pressing yes. We reload the UI. So now we're back in runtime adaptation mode. Once again, we click on add field. We look for our field, customer, project priority, Here it is, our code and our description, components. We say save and exit, and immediately you can use runtime. Here you see the value help. We say this project is medium. That is priority high, and you see here it takes the code, and here it takes the description. Yeah, we can use it immediately, and wherever this OData service entity we use right here is used, and whatever UI it is used, this field is now available. Okay, so far the demo regarding how you can adapt a Fiori UI and how you can add your own fields. Now we go ahead with the custom business objects demo. And here you already see the tile, custom business objects. It belongs to the extensibility group. But before we dive into the custom business objects tool, I would like to show you the result when you create a custom business object. Because I created a custom business object a couple of days ago. It is this one, the consultant teams. And I would like to show you the results, how it looks like. And then later on, we build exactly the same custom business object. So we dive into this consultant team custom business object. And you see there are two teams, an A team and a B team. We have several fields, number of members, the description of the team, and some system administrative data right here, when it has been created and who, and such information. We dive into the details of one of these projects. Here we see the header information, and then we see the members. We could add additional members. Here you see we have 3 members. We could also edit the fields. Some of you may recognize that there is a bug because number of members is 0, despite the fact that we have 3 members. This is missing coding. We have to add coding, and we will do that in a couple of minutes. And we see how you can code in the web browser. Okay, we leave that UI. And that is now exactly what we will build in the custom business object app. We will create our own custom business object. We start the custom business objects app. And here you see the custom business object I showed you a couple of seconds ago. Now we create a new one. We always say it's a team, it's a support teams. And you see, like you've seen it with the custom fields, it takes the name as a proposal for the identifier. Also, it puts the customer namespace in front of it to avoid naming collisions. Yes, we go ahead, creating this custom business object. And now we have to decide whether we would like to have coding, determinations, and validation. Yes, we would like to have that. Then we have to decide whether we want to have a UI generated for us. We say yes, and maybe some of you recognize that. Immediately when we check mark this one, the service generation check box also got checked. The reason for that is you cannot have a Fiori UI without an OData service. We also want to be that custom business object associatable, and we would like to have system admin data. Now we define the nodes. The header node is already given for us, but we would also like to have a member node. And now we define the fields. For the header node, some of the fields are given, like the system admin data because of the checkmark, and the description because we checkmark the associatable flag. Now we add 2 more fields. One for the semantic key, we name it ID. Text is a correct field type, it's a key field, and length 20 is fine for us. Then we would like to have a field number of members, and their text is the wrong type. We would like to have a number, and it should be read-only. This field should be read-only because we would like to calculate it. Length of 2 is sufficient, and we would like to have no decimals. We're done with the field specification of this node. We go ahead with the member node, and there we're fine when we have 2 fields, one for the first name, one for the last name, and we say the length of last name should be 40, not 20, the default, and we also change the length to 40 for the first name because we expect longer names. Now we are done. We say save draft, and now we publish this. Publishing takes a while. That is why we go ahead with the custom business object I showed you before, and now I show you there how you can code, how you can provide coding. And we take as an example, it is this one. We take as an example this bug we've seen with the number of members. We will correct this one. We go to the logic tab, and there we go into the after modification determination event. And maybe some of you may recognize why we see there is always a 0 in the number of members field, because it is really coded that way. I coded it that way. But we'll change it now. We will correct it. We say create draft. And now on the right side, you see the coding that is active in the system. On the left side, you see the editor where we can really code. We start, and by the way, I should shortly explain the signature here. We have 2 importing parameters. One importing parameter is the association object that allows us to navigate between the node instance of this custom business object instance. Then we also have an object to write data into the other instances, node instances, but also to other business objects, custom business objects. And then we have a changing parameter that is our current node instance, the header node. And there you see in my coding, I set it to 0, the number of members field. We will change that. And I would like to show you that IntelliSense works, like you know it from ADT. We have the number of members field. And now we would like to assign the number of members this project or this consultant team has. We use the lines function, and then with the association object we can navigate to the subnodes. With to member, we navigate to the member subnode and get all the members of this current instance in an internal table, and that is exactly what we want to do. And now we're done. Maybe one thing I would like to tell you right here, you can code much more. You can, for example, code an OpenSQL select. Select from, let's take the product. Maybe we would like to get fields from the product, fields and product category, and maybe some more fields, product configuration or document number, into table LT data, And you see, as soon we do something wrong, we immediately get an error message. That's the same as you know it from ADT. You correct that one. And now, now I would like to add some information here. You can only access, release CDSUs here with OpenSQL. You cannot insert data into tables. You cannot select data from tables. You can only select from released CDSUs. The reason is lifecycle stability. Whatever you code right here will never ever break through an upgrade, will always work after an upgrade, and also it will never ever harm an upgrade. All you do here is 100% lifecycle stable. Now let's go ahead testing what we did, because there's a test environment integrated in this editor. Maybe some of you recognize it. There's a test button in the corner right here. And we also have test data. An instance of the header node is automatically given for us, but we have to add members if you would like to have them in our tests, and we want to have members. We say we add 2 members. First name and last name is not interesting for us. We say OK. And on the bottom of the screen, you see the result. As soon as we execute it, you will see the result. And these are the fields of the header node. And now we say test. On the right side, the old logic is executed. On the left side, the new logic is executed. And as you see, in the old one, the number of members is 0. In the new, number of members is 2. Exactly what we want to have. Now we say publish. And with that, we change the logic. And after we published it, we go back to our runtime UI. And now we see the effect. We go back to the teams. We say edit, we do a slight change, and then as soon as we say save, our modification event pops in. And now you see it's no longer 0, the number of members, it is 3. And that's exactly what we want to have. Now we're done with this custom business object demo. You've seen how you can create a custom business object, how you can add your own coding, edit your own coding. That is what I wanted to show. Now we go ahead with the slides.
So welcome back from the demo. Now let's have a look when to use what, when to go for side-by-side extensibility and when to go for in-app extensibility. I picked some golden rules to decide when to use what. And by the way, this is the most often asked questions, one of the most often asked questions by customers, when to use what. And I picked the, let's say, 3, from my point of view, most important rules, how to decide that. And first of all, one point is, who are the users of your extension application? Are they your own employees? If they are your own employees, then this rather points you into the direction in-app extensibility. If your users are external users, like in a web shop, something like that, then for security reasons and also for scaling reasons, this rather points you into the direction SAP Cloud Platform. Then maybe the most important dimension is, where does your data reside? If all of your data resides in S4, this rather points you into the direction in-app extensibility. On the other side, if the data you use in your application, in your extension application, is separated over several systems, and you indicate there are several systems, then this rather points you into the direction SAP Cloud Platform. And then there is one more golden rule, that is transactional consistency. If a very strong transactional consistency between your standard data changes and your extension data changes is given, and you want to have one joint commit, one logical unit of work, then this also points you rather into the direction in-app extensibility and S4HANA. so far, when to use what. There's a lot more to that, and it's always a little bit project specific, but it gives you a rough idea where to start from. Now let's go ahead with having a look at the key takeaways. So the key takeaways, first of all, what you've seen in this session is that S/4HANA Extensibility has two flavors, in-app and side-by-side. You've seen how both flavors of extensibility fit together, how they interact, and when to use what. You've also seen that lifecycle stability is in the center of SAP's extensibility approach, and you benefit there because you don't have to rework your extension over and over again with each update or upgrade. And what you've also seen is when to use what. And you've seen how in-app extensibility, key user in-app extensibility really feels like, how you can do it with a demo. Let's go ahead, looking at the related SAP TechEd sessions. There are two sessions that show further topics of in-app extensibility. These are the first two here. Then we have 3 more sessions, and there are a lot more for side-by-side extensibility. I also strongly recommend to visit these. Then I mentioned this session, ABAP strategy session from Boris Gebhardt. Please also join that session because he explains this new flavor of extensibility, this developer extensibility, as I said, a game changer for the extensibility story in S4. The number is DEV 200. And then there's a list of additional links that lead you to more detailed information. I would also strongly recommend, if you're interested, to have a look at these. Now let's have a look how you can continue your learning experience in TechEd 2020. Here you see the possibilities you have. I would also, if you're interested, strongly recommend to visit these. And with this, I would like to conclude my session. So thanks a lot for attending this session. I wish you a lot of interesting sessions and yeah, a good TechEd 2020, and have a nice day. Bye.